Adbert Alzolay's struggles in the closer spot continue. Is that his best role, or should the Cubs start looking for other options? He's blown more saves this year in April than he did all last season. The Cubs bounced back in Game 2. Nico Hoerner, red hot. Cody Bellinger getting the bat going. Ian Happ still out. All that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. That's a way of saying go Cubs. Fly the W for Game 2. Hey everybody, Mick Gillispie. Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. It is a pleasure to talk Cubs with you. And again, just not only a guy that has covered the team for 20 years, but a guy that's been a fan for like 40. So my entire life loving the Cubs just like you. And it really is great to have you here on the show. And sometimes it's great just to be able to get things off of our chests together. And one of those things is Adbert Alzolay. Again, another blown save. This was Game 1 of the doubleheader. Gave up a 2-run homer trying to protect a 1-run lead. Craig Counsell talked about it after the game. He's like, hey, you don't want your closer to give up home runs. But he also said that, look, this guy's going to make big pitches for us down the road. He still seemed very confident in Alzolay. And I'm asking you guys if you're confident in Alzolay, because I'm not too confident in Alzolay. I'm going to tell you why. I don't see the same stuff this year, and I can't really tell you what it is. There was just a little extra movement, a little extra spark last year, and then he got hurt at the end of the season, and he hasn't been the same pitcher. He's still good, but he's not dominant anymore. It's like there's just not as much break. There's just not as much velo. Something is just different with him. And for a guy who a year ago, 22 saves and 25 tries. And remember, all the blown saves were towards the end of that. He was dynamite out of the bullpen. And here we are, fourth blown save of the year. And we're not even out of April yet. As a matter of fact, we still got a lot of games left in the month. Is he the best option at the closer spot? And honestly, I don't know. And the reason why is I don't know who you would put in there instead of him. You start talking about what would you do? And I think that the obvious solution would be maybe you flip Mark Leiter Jr. from being the setup guy to being the closer. And then you bring Alzolay in and as maybe the setup guy, right? That's solution number one. Solution number two could be Hector Neris, or as I called him, Narvis for some reason, when they signed him. But he hasn't been that good. Honestly, you just don't know if he's going to throw strikes. He's got a track record of success coming off of his best season, but I don't feel too comfortable with him either. Then we saw in Game 2, Ben Brown come in relief, and it's a waste of a starter if you move Ben Brown to the bullpen, because a lot of those guys blow out. You're using them a lot. You're pitching a ton of innings. He's been really good as a starter too, and starters are more expensive. They're the reason why relievers aren't paid as much is because there's a lot more options of them. There's not a lot of good starters. So are you ready to throw him as your closer and then take him out of the starting rotation? That's the question. And we're going to talk about Kyle Hendricks coming up, who makes the start today, and what that means. Because I feel like his career with the Cubs is hanging by a thread. There's only so many games you can give up 5 to 7 runs in and stay in the big leagues. And I know he signed through the season and we all love him, but at the same time, he's just not getting it done. So we'll find out. I mean, the Cubs have said, well, he's synonymous with slow starts. They've got confidence that he's going to turn it around. The problem is that all these games count. And we saw that last year. When you end up, they say they 1 game back. They were 2 games back because they lost the tiebreakers to the teams that they would have played, right? So they would have needed to win 2. But whatever, it doesn't matter. These games matter as far as you blew one to one of the worst teams in baseball, the Marlins. And it's not just Alzolay's fault. I mean, they had other opportunities to score, runners at third with less than 2 outs. You can't put it in play, which is so frustrating, right? Make contact. Fundamental baseball is what great teams do to win. Think about the way that the Cubs played in 2016. They didn't miss a lot of opportunities. They took advantage of them. And you look at all the championship teams, they're that way. So Cubs are going to have to develop that. I don't know what the solution is at closer, but I'm going to tell you right now that it's concerning. And it's not just concerning because of the results. It's concerning because there's just something that's not quite the same. So a couple things need to happen. Either he's got to figure out what that is and maybe get that back, that spark, that electricity that's not there, or the Cubs need to figure out who the next person is in that spot and let them get in there, because you can't keep blowing these games in the 9th inning. Now, some guys that are performing, how about Cody Bellinger? Back in, I thought the home run to start game 2 in the 1st inning was huge. You blow the game. This team has showed resilience this year, because let me tell you, they've had some really bad losses. You blow an 8-run lead in a game in San Diego, you come back the next day and you win. That's big. That game in Arizona where they had the lead late, back and forth, and then the bullpen gives up all those runs, including Alzolay, and then you lose in extra innings, and then you come back the next day and you win. They lose game 1. They give up the home run. Empty the stadium, bring everybody back in. Bellinger hits the home run, gets things going. Cubs fall behind, and then they fight back. And guess who's in the middle of it again? Nico. How about in the comments section, a lot of you guys were like, hey, are you concerned about Nico? He had the slow spring training, got off to the slow start as well during the regular season. And we were wondering, like, what's going on? Now he is doing it both ways. Defensively, tremendous. Offensively, tremendous. I would have loved to have seen him get that hit to win the game in the 9th inning, game 1. At least he put up a fight. But bottom line is that the guy's good, and he's one of the reasons that the Cubs are 12-8 with their win last night in game 2. 13-8 after their win in game 2. So he's fun to watch, though. I mean, he's just so good defensively, makes so many great plays at the plate. He's such a good line drive hitter. I think they'd like to have more power out of him, but at the same time, hits matter, base hits count, and he does that. So we'll see if he ever develops a little more pop, but he's right where you want him to be at this point. Now, one guy that wasn't in the lineup, and Craig Counsell talked about in his post-game press conference, is Ian Happ. Not going to play again today. Tight hamstring. So they're trying to figure out if he's available today, which means could he pinch hit? It's starting to be a concern. And the Cubs may need to internalize here and figure out why. Not just with Ian Happ, but you got all these guys with tight muscles and strains and pulls and everything else. Why? Right? Why? There's a whole department that helps take care of that, stretches guys out, tells them what to eat, make sure that they're ready to go. Are all the teams in baseball dealing with stiff backs and muscle pulls? Where's Shohei? Where's Seiya Suzuki? He's got a muscle injury, right? Why was Tyon and Patrick Wisdom not available at the beginning of the year? A muscle injury, tight muscles. So part of what you do when you're running things is that you look at this kind of stuff and figure out what's going on. Is there a correlation there? I'm not saying there is, but I'm also not saying that there isn't. I'm just saying that at some point you got to say, hey, man, we got to figure out how to do something different, because I don't think that it's just a coincidence. Doubleheader sweep, lost game one, talked about it 3-2, won game two, 5-3. Cubs go for the series victory today. The Marlins and the Cubs at 1:20 Central Time at Wrigley Field. I think this is a really important game. I think you got to win this game. And I think it's a really important game for Kyle Hendricks. If he gets shelled again, it's time to do something about it. Because after I watched Javier Assad deal again, and he doesn't have a guaranteed spot in the rotation, I'm saying to myself, look, I get it. He's not paid. He's a guy that for some reason last year we pulled him for Marcus Stroman at the end of the year after him just doing a fantastic job as a starter, just to watch Stroman blow game after game. Kyle Hendricks, we all love Kyle Hendricks for what he's done in the past. And I think that he's going to go down as one of the great Cubs. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't one day end up in the Cubs Hall of Fame. Right? But it's not fair to guys like Javier Assad as pitchers come back if he doesn't get a spot in this rotation. And I know, look, Chris Kampka, who's the best in the business at throwing out stats, threw up a stat yesterday, and it was like in the bullpen and as a starter, he's good, right? Under a 3 ERA as a starter for Assad. And, like a 3.5 ERA out of the bullpen. Great. Kyle's he's got to get it figured out. Or the Cubs need to figure it out. They've got to make the tough decision. You've got to do what's best for the team. And that's not a personal shot at someone that we all like. But when your ERA is 12.71 and your team has very little chance to win because you give up so many hits and runs, even the greatest players go through this. And a lot of them retire. They leave baseball. I'm not saying that that's what the answer is. I'm not saying that this is the end of Kyle Hendricks. But I'm not saying it isn't either. So I'm saying today's game matters. Edward Cabrera is getting the start for the Marlins. No wins or losses, a 1.50 ERA. And then there's Hendricks at 0-2 with a 12.71 ERA. He doesn't throw hard enough to make mistakes and leave pitches over the plate. I think today's game is really important for him to get it figured out, because if it goes like the other ones have gone, and this is one of the worst teams in baseball, this is one of the worst lineups in baseball, there needs to be some serious discussions, because if you end up a game out again and you leave this guy in the rotation, then your job's in jeopardy. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's your job as the people that run the team. I'm talking about Jed, to make tough decisions. So hopefully that's not the case. But if it was me, my patience for this are very thin. So we don't know if there's an injury. We don't know if it's just he's in a slump. But we do know that he's got a 12.71 ERA, and that statistically, this is the worst start for a starting pitcher in the history of Cubs baseball since they've recorded stats. So today's a big game for Kyle, and I'm pulling for him. I hope he gets it done. But if it's another 5 or 6 run start, it's time to give Assad that job and move on from it. Plain and simple. All right, guys, that's what I have to say. You get in the comments section and you tell me what you think. Split in the doubleheader. It's hard to win doubleheaders. You know that. And I mean, immediately when the game got rained out on Thursday, you're getting comments like it's impossible to, it's not impossible, but it's tough to sweep a doubleheader. Series victory today. Let's hope Kyle Hendricks goes out there and figures it out. And we take a step forward with the Astros coming into town and then off to Beantown to play the Red Sox. It's a pretty fun time to follow baseball. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Again, really appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Thumbs up. Go Cubs.